Apparently, asking one adult dad to stop holding his phone above everyone's heads during a school performance is now attacking a parent, which is interesting because I thought we were all there to watch the children, not the back of one man's phone case. I was at the school auditorium on Thursday night for the 4th grade music showcase. The parking lot was full. The hallway smelled like wet coats and hand sanitizer. And every parent had that tight smile people wear when they are trying to look supportive while secretly checking the time. My daughter was singing in the second group. She had practiced for 2 weeks, mostly at breakfast, mostly while standing too close to the toaster. So yes, I wanted to see her. Not hear her from behind someone's raised arms, not guess where she was based on height and hair color. See her. The auditorium was packed. Folding chairs had been added along the sides, parents were whispering too loudly, grandparents were guarding programs like legal documents. A toddler in the back had already rejected a granola bar with the force of a closing argument. I found one decent seat near the middle. Not a perfect seat, not front row, just a normal seat with a normal view, which I foolishly believed meant I would be able to watch a normal school performance in a normal way. Then he sat down 2 rows ahead of me. The dad, at first he looked like every other school event parent, hoodie, phone, leaning forward. Serious expression, like his child was about to perform at a national broadcast instead of sing between a kid with untied shoes and a boy who was already yawning. Fine, record your child, take pictures, preserve memories. I am not against memories. Then the lights dimmed. The music teacher walked to the front, and the second the first group stepped onto the risers, this man raised his phone. Not chest level, not eye level. Above his head, both arms up, elbows out, screen glowing, right in the middle of everyone's view. The entire row behind him shifted at once. You could feel it, that quiet audience movement where people realize their view has just been replaced by someone else's recording of the view. I leaned left. The phone moved left. I leaned right. The phone moved right. It was like trying to watch a school concert behind a moving windshield wiper. If you enjoy watching simple school events turn into seating and visibility disasters, subscribe, because apparently hold the phone lower is now controversial. At first, I said nothing. That matters. People act like I enjoy confrontation. I do not. I enjoy seeing the stage I drove to, so I waited. I thought maybe he would record the first few seconds, realize his arms were human arms, and lower the phone. He did not. The first song began, the children sang, his phone stayed up. The woman beside me whispered, "Oh, come on, that was not me. I want credit for the fact that at that moment I was still technically behaving." A man behind me leaned into the aisle to see around the phone. A grandmother near the left side lifted her program like paper might somehow help. The dad kept filming, then he zoomed in. I know because his fingers started pinching on the screen and his elbows spread wider. That was when he stopped being a parent, recording a moment, and became a full-body obstruction. I leaned forward and said quietly, "Excuse me, could you lower your phone a little?" That was the sentence, not "put it away," not "nobody needs your documentary," not "your child is not at the Grammys." I simply asked him to lower it. He half turned and said, "I'm filming my kid." "Yes." "That was visible," I said. "Right, but people behind you can't see." He looked at me for 1 second, then turned back around, and the phone went even higher. Now maybe that was accidental. Maybe his shoulder twitched. Maybe he suddenly needed extra sky in the video. But from where I sat, it felt pointed. My daughter's group was coming up next, and I was not about to watch her little solo through the corner of a phone case. So I leaned forward again and said, "Lower would still record." He ignored me. The woman beside me whispered, "Seriously? Again, not me, independent witness." I said a little louder, "Sir, your phone is blocking the stage." This time he turned around fully. Several people looked over, which of course made him act like I had just started a public scene by myself. He said, "Can you stop talking?" I said, "Can you stop filming over everyone's heads?" Was that too direct? Maybe. Was it the point? Yes. My daughter was not on stage yet, but I could already feel her future embarrassment forming somewhere in the room. The dad said, "I'm allowed to record." I said, "You're allowed to record. You're not allowed to become part of the stage." The woman next to me made a tiny sound into her program. I took that as support. Looking back, It may have been panic. Tell me in the comments, when did recording your child become permission to block every other parent's actual view? He muttered, unbelievable, and turned back around. The phone stayed up. Now this is where a normal person might let it go. A normal person might watch around the phone, complain in the car, and move on. Unfortunately, I had decided this was about sightline fairness. My daughter's group walked onto the risers. There she was, blue dress, nervous smile, looking for me in the audience, and between us, a phone. A phone, 2 elbows, and one dad's commitment to getting the perfect shaky video. So I lifted my program and waved it slightly near his phone. Not touching it, just near it. A gentle visual demonstration. He jerked the phone away and hissed, "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Showing you what blockage feels like," he said. "You're ruining my video." I said, "Now you understand." That was not my best moment. The woman beside me stopped being on my side right there. I felt it. People like a reasonable complaint. They do not always like the moment the complaint becomes a project. The music started. My daughter's group began singing. I should have stopped, I know that now, but the phone was still high enough to block part of the stage, and I had already lost the quiet, normal part of myself. So I whispered, "Lower." The phone. Each word separate, like I was training a dog that had purchased electronics. The dad turned his head just enough to say, "Lady, enough." "Lady?" I said, "Exactly, enough." The people in front of him started turning around now. Not because of his phone, because of me. That is important. That is where I stopped being the person reacting to the problem and became another problem, just with better vocabulary. A teacher near the side aisle looked over. Clipboard, cardigan, tired eyes. The universal uniform of someone who has already handled spilled juice, missing costumes, and one child crying because their sleeve felt wrong. She gave a small warning smile. To him? To me? Probably both. I chose to believe it was mostly him, because that was more convenient. The dad lowered the phone to eye level for about 7 seconds. 7 beautiful seconds. I saw my daughter. She saw me. I waved. Then he raised it again for the chorus. I actually laughed. Not loudly, but enough that the woman beside me leaned away. I whispered, "Oh good, the director's cut." The dad snapped, "Do you have a problem?" And instead of saying nothing, which would have been the correct adult choice, I said, "I have a sightline problem." During the song, during children singing. My daughter's face changed on stage, just a little. She recognized what was happening. Not in a proud way. In a "please don't let that be my mom" way. That should have stopped me. It almost did. The teacher came down the side aisle, crouched near our row, and whispered, "Let's keep voices down, please." She said it to the row. Very diplomatic, but I knew, he knew, the woman beside me definitely knew. I whispered. I asked him to lower the phone. The teacher whispered, "I understand. Please keep voices down." That is school event code for, "You may have had a point, but you are now part of my workload." I sat back. For the rest of the song, I said nothing. Growth. Except once, when the phone drifted upward again, I made a small downward motion with my hand. My daughter saw it. So did the teacher. So did, apparently, every ancestor I have ever had. After the song, the dad turned around and said, "Happy now?" I said, "Not really, but visibility improved." Why did I say that? Because sometimes my mouth keeps going after my judgment has left the building. His wife touched his arm and said, "Just hold it lower." Beautiful sentence, simple, useful, slightly humiliating for him, which I did not hate. He looked betrayed. I looked vindicated. My daughter looked like she wanted to change her last name. The rest of the performance continued. I saw most of it. The children sang about kindness and community, which felt targeted. The microphone squealed twice. A boy in the back row yawned with his whole soul. Standard school excellence. When the lights came up, my daughter walked straight to me, not smiling, not proud. She said, "Mom, why were you fighting during my song?" That hit harder than I wanted it to. I said I was making sure people could see. She said, "People could hear you." I said, "Only because he wouldn't lower the phone." She said, "You waved your program at him." I said, "Near him. Near the obstruction." She stared at me in the way children stare when they realize adults are just taller problems with car keys. On the way to the car, she walked 2 steps ahead of me. Not dramatically, worse, quietly. I said, "I'm sorry if that embarrassed you." She said, "It did. No decoration, no extra emotion, just the fact." And because I am apparently incapable of stopping at the correct sentence, I said, "But I still think he was rude." She said, "You were too." That was unpleasant. Because she was not wrong. I thought that was the end. It was not the end. That night, my sister sent me a screenshot from the school parent group. Of course she did. No school event is complete until someone turns it into a paragraph. The post said, "To the woman who argued with a dad during the music showcase. Please remember, these nights are about the kids, not your personal comfort." Argued with a dad during the music showcase. The phone height naturally was not mentioned. The elbows were erased from history. The comments were predictable. Let people record memories. Maybe grandparents couldn't attend. Adults need to stop ruining school events. One person wrote, "This is why I sit in the back." Reasonable, my sister texted, "Please tell me this wasn't you," I said. Define argued, she said. "Did you talk during a children's performance?" I said, "I advocated for shared visibility." My husband, from the kitchen, said, "That sounds like yes," I said. "It sounds like context." He said, "Did our daughter ask you to stop?" I paused. He said, "That also sounds like yes." I did not enjoy the accuracy in the room. A week later, at pickup, I noticed a new sign taped near the auditorium doors. "Please be mindful of others when recording." Now, am I claiming that sign existed because of me? No, I'm not claiming direct institutional influence. I am simply observing that after one phone-related misunderstanding, the school developed written guidance on recording etiquette. That is called impact. So no, I do not regret saying something. I regret that basic visibility now requires negotiation. I regret that parents think holding a phone above their head is the same as being considerate. And I regret slightly that my daughter now calls it the night you fought the phone dad. Next time, I'll tell you what happened when a mom at field day let her son cut the entire snow cone line because he was just joining cousins. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because if I have to keep explaining the difference between recording a memory and blocking a room, we might as well all learn from it together. I was not attacking a parent. I was not against family videos. I was protecting a school performance from becoming one man's personal camera tower. My side of the story, obviously,